Cool. So we've talked about constructive interference, where things come together and make something bigger, make bigger waves. Destructive interference, where waves go against each other and kind of cancel each other out. We've talked about what happens when the source of a wave is moving, which creates bunches in the front and spreads out in the back. That creates a Doppler effect. Here's a question though, and maybe feel free to pause it so you can kind of figure it out for yourself before I give you the answer. What happens when a wave hits a wall? Whether it's a sound wave or a light wave or something, or maybe even just a water wave. What happens when waves hit walls? What do? Do they get absorbed? Or do they reflect off? Or some other third thing? What do you think? Well, assuming you've taken a guess at it, if you said that they get absorbed, you're absolutely right. If you said they got reflected, well, then you're also absolutely right. So here's how it works. When an object receives something, let's take all of the light you are seeing right now comes from one source, or maybe a couple of sources. Say the light bulb in your room, or maybe the screen in your computer, or the sun outside. And so everything you see comes from those sources. That's where all the waves are coming from. Now, if I was to go to, for example, Mugman over here. Now, Mugman has what looks like a blue nose. What that means, what's actually happening here, isn't that his nose is actually blue, in a sense. It actually isn't. All that this nose is doing is the sunlight's coming in, all the waves are coming in and going out on this nose. And his nose is absorbing all of those waves. It's absorbing every single one of the waves from the light, except for the waves that have a blue wavelength. And so it reflects the waves from the sun that have a blue wavelength, and those waves travel into my eye or travel into your eye, and so you see the color blue because your eyes take that blue wavelength and it processes and says, okay, that's blue, and so it makes it look like it's blue. Now, a mirror, on the other hand, would take all of the light waves, wherever they come from, whether they're reflected from another object or if they're just coming straight from the sun, and it'll reflect all of them. It won't accept any of those lights, any of those waves. It'll reflect all of them out, and so you'll see everything. You'll see the reflections from the waves from all the objects around you, which is what a mirror does. It's as you see the objects around you, specifically the waves that emanate from your own face, and it also lets you see, if you were to reflect it from the sun, you could see the sun specifically. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. It reflects all the waves that come from that the sun or the light bulb or whatever emits. Black objects, on the other hand, they don't reflect anything, or they reflect very, very little. The only reason I can see them at all is because they reflect just a tiny bit. They're not intended to do, but they don't intend to do that. If they were perfect black, you couldn't see them. They'd be completely invisible. Because in a sense, that you wouldn't see anything. It'd be like a black hole, almost. It's because it absorbs all of the light, every single little bit. And so it has no reflection of wavelengths, and so you don't see any of the wavelengths from my shirt, which means your eyes process nothing, and so it just creates a little black field here. Because I don't see any information over here because there's no wavelengths being sent to your eye holes from there. So again, what you're seeing isn't Mugman. What you're seeing are the waves that Mugman emits in the way that your eye processes them, and the white is just, it's reflecting the colors, all of the colors of the rainbow, which your eye processes as white. So your ears, just in the same way that your ears are sophisticated wave processing machines that process a whole ton of different waves at once, and make what's called sounds from 20 hertz to 2000 hertz oscillations per second. Your eyes are the same thing. They are sophisticated wave processing machines, except they process waves at a much, much higher frequency, and that come in a little bit different, a slightly different way. We'll get into that at the very end. So if I'm just seeing, so when I first found that out though, that blew my mind. I was saying, well, that means when I'm looking at Mugman, I'm not actually seeing Mugman. What I'm seeing are the waves that Mugman emits. And so if I am just seeing the waves that Mugman emits, and I'm not seeing Mugman, then what does Mugman actually look like? And that's a tough question, since for us who have eyes all the time, we've been seeing, we are so dependent on understanding things and what they look like by the way our eyes process those waves. But because these things aren't the actual colors, and that's all our eyes do, it just processes waves. We need to find a person who doesn't have devices that process those waves. Specifically, the people who can really understand what Mugman looks like are people who've never had to rely on waves to kind of understand the way the world looks and the way it actually functions. And the people who are like that are the people without eyes at all, or people who are blind. So what that means, it's really encouraging for those of us who don't see so well. The people who are blind are actually the ones who can see the best because they can't rely on the waves to make images. They construct the object inside and out with their minds. When you see an object, normally you just see the outside of the object and you think that's the outside of the object. When a blind person sees the object, they see not just what the object looks like. When they think about an object, at least is the way I imagine them seeing objects, they see the whole object, the inside, the outside, all the surfaces, and probably even the textures. They see it all at once. So they kind of have a better image in their head of what something actually looks like, not based on the waves, than what we do. So you don't have to worry about any of that. That was all just a free bonus. When I first learned about that, I thought that was crazy. But for our purposes, let's get back on reflection. Light can reflect, and so does sound. Just the way that light reflects because it's a wave, sound reflects because it's a wave. And sound reflects super fast. I mean, at the speed of sound. But it is noticeable. In fact, if our sound was 100% pure and didn't bounce off anything at all before it got to us, it would actually sound a bit unnatural and it would sound weird to us. So recording studios don't try to absorb all the sound, they just try to absorb a lot of it. So there's not a bunch of really weird echoes, because otherwise it'd sound weird. Of course, if it bounces across something that's far enough away, it'll come back to you that's in a way that sounds like an echo. It comes back at a really big delay. That's what echoes are. That's what reflection is. This bouncing off. Here's a question though, and it's completely different. Why is it that when you're standing outside in the open air, when you shout at someone who's submerged in a pool of obviously liquid water, why is it that the person in the pool who's underwater can hardly hear it? Well, the next video helps us understand that very idea. This idea of refraction, of waves going from one material, one gas, into another material, a liquid, for example.